I'd like to congratulate, Mr. President, my colleague from South Dakota for his comments, because I'm hearing the same thing in Wyoming that he has been hearing about the Obama health care law and the impact on people in his state. I'm hearing the same thing, and I heard it this past weekend in Wyoming, talking to people about what impact Obamacare has had on their lives. And I mean, it's very interesting, Mr. President, because people all around the state of Wyoming are talking about the fact that their costs have gone up, choices have gone down. Many who had insurance that worked for them lost that insurance, all related to a law passed in the House and in the Senate and signed into law by President Obama. So tonight in Chicago, President Obama is going to give a farewell address. And I'm assuming that he talks about Obamacare, and I'm assuming that he paints a very different picture than what the American people have seen and are living with. And now I see the president using scare tactics about what Republicans plan to do. Well, no matter what President Obama wants, the American people have spoken, they have voted, and 8 out of 10 people say that what this costly and complicated health care law has done with them, they would like to see it either changed or significantly changed or repealed and replaced. Now, they know better than to believe what the Democrats are continuing to tell them, because they've been living with it every day. 7 years ago, Democrats made one false claim after another when they were trying to sell this law to the American people. Democrats said if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Said if you liked your health care plan, you could keep your health care plan. You know, that one was labeled the lie of the year a few years ago. They said that premiums for average family would go down by $2,500. None of it was true. Now Democrats are out telling more tales about Obamacare. All of these news stories are going to be just as false as the ones that they told us all in the past. For one thing, Democrats have been saying that millions of Americans are going to lose their health insurance if we repeal the Obama health care law. Well, in a letter just last week, Senator Schumer and Senator Sanders said that Republicans are planning, they said, to take health care coverage away from more than 30 million Americans. It's not going to happen. And the Democrats absolutely know it's not going to happen. Doesn't stop them from saying it. The fact is that this should never have been about health insurance in the first place. As a doctor, I will tell you this should have been about health care and patients. Republicans are going to make sure that's where the focus is from now on. The number of people with good health insurance coverage under Obamacare actually has been a lot less than what the Democrats are claiming. That's because lots of people who bought Obamacare coverage only did it because the health care law forced them to give up the insurance that they already had and liked and worked for them. I've heard many stories from people in Wyoming who had insurance, worked for them, they chose it because it was best for them and their family, and they lost it because the president said it wasn't good enough for him. These are people who were hurt by the broken promises and by President Obama's well-earned award of Lie of the Year. With the health care law, most of the people who got insurance for the first time were actually forced into the broken system called Medicaid. Most of those people were actually eligible for Medicaid before the law was even signed. But for people who didn't have insurance before, a lot of them still can't afford care now because they may have insurance, but the deductibles are so high that they can't afford to use it. Half of Obamacare enrollees say that they're actually skipping doctor visits in order to save money. Well, if a family's health insurance doesn't cover the care that they need, then the number of people covered is totally meaningless. Democrats are out there saying that if we try to replace Obamacare with a better solution, that it's just going to set, in their words, it's going to cause chaos in the health insurance industry. Where have they been? There is chaos everywhere because of Obamacare. When you look at what Democrats did to America's health care system, what you see is chaos. Premiums up 25% in 1 year. That's chaos. Deductibles up by an average of $450 in a year. That's chaos. There is no functioning marketplace for Obamacare in 1/3 of the country. That's chaos. When Americans look at this, what they see is already chaos, and Obamacare caused it. Now, I want to mention one of the false claims that the Democrats are making, and it has to do with Medicaid. That's because Medicaid was broken long before Obamacare. All the health care law did was add more people onto this broken program. One reason that Medicaid is struggling is the same reason that the rest of Obamacare isn't working. Because Medicaid tries to impose too many rules and too many regulations from Washington. It tries to make one size fit all. Now, there are different needs in every state. States know what those needs are, and they know much better than Washington knows about the people who live in those states. There are Republican governors like Mike Pence of Indiana who understood this very important fact, and I'm glad that he's soon going to be vice president. Governors like Mike Pence fought for waivers to make sure that they could do what the people of their states needed. Every governor should have that kind of freedom to look out for the best interests of the people in their home states. Shouldn't have to ask permission from some unaccountable, unelected Washington bureaucrat before making improvements to their own Medicaid program. Giving states the freedom to come up with better solutions is just one of the things Republicans are going to do to replace Obamacare with real health care reform. States need and deserve to have that freedom, and people should be free to buy the health insurance that meets their needs, not what meets the needs of the President of the United States. People shouldn't have to pay more for coverage that isn't a good value for them, and that's why so many people aren't even signing up in the first place and would rather pay the penalty, a penalty that in my mind is still unconstitutional. Families should have more flexibility to save for their own medical care. That's a way to make sure they're not stuck with empty coverage that they can't afford to use. And people shouldn't be mandated to buy this overpriced, unusable insurance or face a penalty from the IRS. It's one of the most outrageous parts of the entire health care law. To me, it's the first thing that has to go on the chopping block. Republicans are going to repeal damaging and destructive ideas like Obamacare's many taxes and mandates and penalties. Then we're going to walk through better solutions, one by one, step by step. And I hope some of the Democrats in Congress will join us. The Democrat senators must be heading home on weekends and listening to people who have been impacted the way I've described the people of Wyoming believe they've impacted by the health care law. They have to realize that there are things that we must do better and more freedoms that must be given to the American people. The American people have suffered long enough with the chaos created by Obamacare. It took years for health insurance markets to get this bad, and it's going to take time to get things fixed. This resolution that we've introduced to repeal Obamacare is the start. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.